In this video we're going to paint the Cryptothralls. I first started off with a white undercoat because we're going to be using yellow paint afterwards, and the first coat for the yellow paint was Uriel yellow. Several coats were applied to make sure you get a good base coat. After this, Seraphim Sapphire has been applied into areas where I feel it would be slightly darker due to light reflection. This process also takes 2 or 3 coats just to build it up. Next, again to emphasise areas where it's going to be slightly darker, I'm using Agrax Earthshade. However, this time I'm just covering a smaller area just to pick out that depth. For the lightest areas of the yellow, I'm either using Phalanx Yellow or Dawn Yellow to again further try and pick out the details, especially with the tops of the vertebrae. They end up with dawn yellow, and I'm applying the highlights into the circular joints first rather than the darker shades in the recesses, because this way the darker shades will hide any imperfections in your painting. And now, depending on how dark I want the detail to be in the cracks and crevices, I'm either using Seraphim Sapphire or Agrax Earthshade to pick out the areas for the various joints. And I've also used some Agrax Earthshade on the areas, the dark area where the feet are. I normally leave the blue areas until the end of painting the miniature, but with this energy core being where it is and then the arms being either side of it, I thought that it's most likely going to get in the way of the process of the painting. So I started off with Corax White, and once the base coat of that has dried, I've watered down some rust grey and applied that into the area, and the rust grey will naturally want to fall into the recesses. I find to help the rust grey to settle right, it's best to leave the miniature on its side. So I painted one side of the miniature, gave it time to dry, and then I painted the opposite side. Once this was fully dry, Lothar Blue was thinned down with some water and then applied into the same area. And this way, once the blue has time to dry, where the rust grey was in various areas, it will look slightly darker than the rest of the blue. Plus the orb should look slightly lighter because the paint will want to fall into the recesses. Now it's time to start painting the main armour, which I started off with Corvus Black first. Once I was satisfied with the Corvus Black, the next stage was Skavenblight Dinge, and the Skavenblight Dinge was used to pick out some of the edges and also some of the larger flat areas to represent how light would catch it and it would make it slightly lighter. Lastly, for the very uppermost areas, and also I've painted that slight line across the shoulder armour with Mechanicus Standard Grey. You'll now see the rings around the neck area have been painted yellow, which was just using the same yellows as what's been used for the rest of the miniature. Blades and cables have been painted with Corax White first, just to make sure there's no imperfections due to other colours due to the mess of painting. And the plain cables have been left alone. However, the ribbed cables, I've used the side of the bush to apply some rust grey. And for the blades, depending on the blade, if it's a single blade, I've just applied some Fenrisian grey as a fine line. However, if it's a blade where it's got 2 sections to it, I've started off with Fenrisian grey and then applied a fine line of rust grey just to make it slightly darker. And now the cables and the blades, I've had a watered down Lothar Blue to go over the areas, and watering it down so when the paint dries it will leave some of those greys showing through the blue colour. For the eyes on the miniature, they were initially painted with White Scar first, followed by Flashkit's Yellow. The white scar's put on there first because yellow doesn't go over black very well, so this is why you applied the white first. And once the yellow has had time to dry, quite a heavy load of Foreground Orange is applied into the area. This will naturally want to seep into the crevices and therefore give a depth of colour between the yellow and the orange. If you like the video, remember to subscribe to help the channel, and also send links to your friends.